Oh, and here we are, the long-awaited recording of rooMMates the movie experience. Hello everyone, my name is Chris Cortez. Look at this awesome intro. I was one of the co-writers, the director, and also one of the actors in rooMMates the movie experience. And I had a bunch of other odd roles, camera person, blah blah blah. But whatever. Moving on. So welcome to for me, the long-awaited audio commentary of rooMMates the movie experience. This is something I've been wanting to. We attempted to record this almost 10 years ago, and those files were long since gone because of many computer purges that occurred. Because I was a fool that did not know how to handle it. But, for this YouTube release, I wanted to go ahead and go back and actually do a commentary, and finally have one recorded. So here we are, like 8 years after the release. So this opening, is very similar kind of to the opening of the first episode of rooMMates. The only difference is instead of the roommates going to Terry, Terry goes to them. So this was originally episode 10 of rooMMates, and so I thought that'd be a great way to kind of bookend it. But in actuality, this turned out to be the film, which is the finale. So we also did kind of bookend it. And also, this is the only sequence in the film that uses the camera motif. So we shot this in standard definition with an actual camcorder, the one that you see me holding there. We didn't shoot this at the same time, obviously. Like, this is the HD camera, the 1080p camera that I had borrowed, I believe, from Brian. I think that was Brian's camera that we shot this movie on. And of course, here we have, oh god, all these actors I had to introduce. So Brian, of course, playing Lewis the drunk, and then Victor just came in as Bo. The second Bo, because of course Nolo played the original Bo in the show, and he also makes a cameo at the end of this film. And here we have John reprising his role as Greg from the series finale of rooMMates, which it just seemed like a natural thing, because we knew this was a continuation of episode 9, and to have Greg come back and be a setup for this, and then effectively have him be the Weekend at Bernie's like corpse for most of the movie was something that we just thought. I don't know whose idea it was. I don't know if it was me or Brian or Pupo. God, I can't believe I forgot his name for a moment. But one of us had done that. Now that paper report that John's holding, or Greg is holding, I actually wrote a paper. I wrote a report, and I showed it to Victor, and I just wanted him to have a prop that was real, something that wasn't fake or anything like that. I'm like, look, dude, I wrote it. It's an actual prop, and I did this and I did that. And I think he thought it was cool, but no one else really cared. And I think one of them started drawing cocks, penises on the back of the paper, and I'm like, you know what? That actually is authentic, because that is what would happen. Now, when we did this shot, I had my entire family and my sister and a bunch of other people behind me that I kept having to wrangle and say, stop laughing, come on, we're trying to get this shot. Needless to say, it was a very kind of a hard shoot at times. A lot of frustration, including a diva moment that I had that we'll get to, that I'm very embarrassed about, that we'll get to when we get there. Now, this opening I did not write, nor did I direct. This was an opening that Mike Pupo wanted to do, a film by Chris Cortez and Friends. That was very important to me because so many people helped create this movie, so I couldn't say this was my film. I said this was a film that, yes, I spearheaded in the sense of I was the director, but it very much was a collaborative effort that we all came together for. But this was all Pupo's idea, right down to the music. He had directed 2 episodes of the series, and when it came down time to do the movie, everyone wanted to do something. So I was the director for the majority of the movie. Brian, of course, directed the ending, which we'll get to later. But Mike had decided to direct this portion of the film, which I was totally cool with, because I don't really think we had an intro originally when this was a TV show episode. When it was going to be smaller, we didn't really have an introduction, because we're like, why? The introduction is roommates, you know, that's what would have happened after the camera broke. So this was Poopa's idea, and he kind of like ran it by me, and this was actually one of the last things that we filmed, which is why my hair is ridiculously long. And you know, everyone that's such a great joke. But yeah, this was like one of the last things that we shot, because of just, I don't know, the way the schedule turned out. If you notice, John's beard, Greg's beard isn't as full. I believe he had shaved it off, and we're like, well, we're not done filming. He's like, don't worry, man, it'll come back. And it did. So this is a tribute to the Beatles, obviously. Brian is not wearing the shoes, which I think is the Paul McCartney joke. And now this introduction here I came up with. What basically what happened was we had some technical problems with this film. The movie kept my hard drive kept erasing footage from the movie, to the point that I had to completely like just I had to do this very weird process where I had to get all the footage and upload it as one giant video file, and then take from that one giant video file the footage that we would need and stick it into the movie as I needed it. I couldn't just have separate video clips like you would with a regular digital camera. And so it erased the entire intro of the movie. And what I ended up having to do was do these reshoots. These are all reshoots that we did, pickups. And I did a voiceover that basically summarized what happened. You know, Greg died and all this stuff happened. Ironically, if you guys are watching this on YouTube, I found most of the introductions footage, and I was able to stick it back into the movie and do an extended cut of the film that actually has the original opening and a couple other little surprises. So I'm really proud of that. But that was, in fact, you know, the original opening, and this is what we, you know, had to supplement. And this is one of the first things that we shot, if I recall correctly. This is all day one stuff, I think, which is why Brian's hair is so short, and, you know, everyone looks kind of different, because Rob's hair gets longer and longer, and Poopa was like, oh, if I just wear a hat, you won't notice it. And it's like, the continuity is ridiculous. Sometimes it's like freshly shaved head, and sometimes it's like insanely long, almost as long as it was in the first season of the show, which I always thought was kind of funny. Now this whole sequence of putting John, you know, this was just my little comedy bit. It kind of goes on a little bit too long, in my opinion, now. But this is ridiculous. John is literally standing up, and Rob apparently is insanely strong by holding him with one arm. It's just such a, oh god, so dumb. I mean, I would have done it so differently. The Whose Bird is this? I think this was an ad-lib that Mike came up with, because we really were, you know, like, we didn't really know. The bird was always in the background with so many shots, and we couldn't really get rid of it, even with the different audio that we had. You know, we had like a direct microphone, and so I think it was just his idea of like, you know, whose bird is this? Which I thought was really funny. And a lot of this is an ad-lib. Brian holding the food and saying we could cook them. You know, that was an ad-lib, and it was just so different. And here, you know, I wrote this opening section. The way we wrote the film was very interesting. It's never, I don't think I've ever worked on a movie that was, you know, exactly like this. But basically, we separated the film into 3 acts. And Act 1 was, you know, the introduction. It was agreed I would write that. The middle chapter, it was agreed Brian would write that. And then the finale, the end, with the exception of the very last, you know, shootout part of the film would be written by Mike Pupo. And so that's exactly how we went about doing it. Um, and I mean, I think, like my whole goal was just to have fun and to facilitate all these setups and to make sure that, I have all this set up as well as I could so that it could be paid off later on in the film. And, it was just fun to have fun with all these setups. And it's funny because a lot of these setups were almost payoffs of things we had hinted at in the series. Because we had outlined the 10 episodes. We wanted season 1 to be 10 episodes, and I think I've said on the series commentary and a bunch of other stuff that it turned out we would split the first 9 episodes into 2 seasons, and then episode 10 became a movie. But we had a lot of these ideas incorporated into what would become the movie from the very get-go, and a lot of it was payoffs from the other, the series, like the 9 previous episodes when this was episode 10. And when it expanded to a film, obviously the payoffs were more like setups all of a sudden. So, because we had changed so much when we were writing, the film initially. So here, we're about to have the scene with, this isn't really much of the payoff. I think like the party thing. I mean, we had a party already in the first episode, which was, I call it the proto party, because here I really think this is one of the best parties I've ever shot. Even 8 years later that I'm recording this commentary, I still have yet to top this. And I think it's partially because my parents' house was so big, and we just had so much. We had a lot of friends back then, or people at least that were that I knew that would be willing to be in the movies and stuff. And then of course this is more of a setup rather than a payoff. But this was originally, this scene here with Terry and Bo was originally set up to be a payoff. That throughout the whole series, Bo is secretly a college student, really studious college student, and Terry, of course, is very studious, and they both come out with Terry saying, "I'm gay," and then Bo, of course, saying, I'm a psych major. Like we could share so much, and then, of course, Terry, being the idiot that he is, he's not, because that's something that was really important to me. Looking back at this film, it can be very offensive. Terry's portrayal, or rather what he thinks being a gay man is. It's extremely campy. It's not at all what a typical gay man is. It's offensive, But the idea is, especially in the finale, is that Terry is an idiot. He's not even gay at all. He thought he was gay, but he's not. He even says at the end, having sex with a man seems icky, and that's because he was a moron and thought, oh, I'm gay, let me act in a stereotypical way that I think, a gay man should act. And Terry was always meant to be, we don't know if he was, because he's a very effeminate man, I think, and I always played him, one foot in the generic nerdy grave and the other foot in the generic, quote unquote gay man voice, the, I guess, flamboyant voice. And the whole idea was, you wouldn't ever really find out. It would be like a hint and stuff. And again, this is supposed to be the quote unquote payoff of like, oh my god, he is gay. But as it developed, we realized, it'd be funny if we went full on camp and it turns out he's not at all gay. He's not attracted to men at all, and he's just really stupid in his way of portraying what he thinks. And that's the irony, because Terry is a psych major. Terry is a person that should know the human condition, how people act, and should respect different cultures and sexualities and beliefs and things like that. And instead, he just full-on falls into that collective of portraying the stereotype, which I think is funny. But like I said, 8 years later, it's a very different time now, and this could be considered extremely offensive. And so, to anyone watching who is gay and or bisexual or anything like that, or just has a gay friend or gay family member, it was not my intentions at all to make Terry, when he quote unquote turns gay, be offensive. It was meant to be, he's a psych major. Why the fuck is he doing this? He's an idiot. In fact, I would argue that Mike and I'm sorry, no, Bo and no, not Bo. I'm losing names. Lewis and Rob might be gay themselves the way they portray, and I think that's more of a good relationship. By the way, Hanging with Mike Pupo, that was an afterthought, as was this, the intermissions. We have 2 intermissions in the movie. This one was actually written and directed by Brian. The Hanging with Mike Pupo ones were written by me, Brian, and Mike, and were directed by me and Mike. The whole idea was we wanted to almost present this like in the TV structure. Originally it was, let's film fake commercials and we'll stick them throughout the movie and do all this. Later on it became, how about instead of fake commercials, we just do like these funny, little short films or short, microfilms in between them. And I think it's hilarious. I mean, this thing, Brian was the one who came up with this idea of, wouldn't it be funny if, because Arnold Schwarzenegger, of course, was the governor of California around this time, and Brian's idea was, wouldn't it be funny if he made a bet with his friends that he could somehow insert the names of every, or almost every single film he's ever made while giving a speech. And I just thought that is such a funny idea. And it was just something we came up with in conversation. It wasn't anything like, this was not planned at any point at all while making this movie. It was purely made as a means of just a spur-of-the-moment idea. And we thought it was so funny that, we shot this during pickups and we said, yeah, let's stick it into the movie. Same thing with the Hanging with Mike Pupo parts. That was all pickups. And, again, it was, we came up with this idea of, wouldn't it be, funny if we get one of the writers of the movies and we make him this like weird character, and it's almost like an SNL sketch. I really think it's some of the funniest things in this movie are these intermissions that give you a break from, they separate the acts, number one, so we know Act 1 is done. So when we come back from this, we know, oh, okay, Act 2 is the Brian part that he wrote and I directed. And I just think that's super funny. The Rise of the Machines. Says it twice. I thought that was really funny. Yeah, so this is the last Hanging with Mike Pupo. This one was Brian's idea, if I recall correctly. I think it was Brian who thought, wouldn't it be fucked up if he comes in and because that would be, what a horrible situation that is. How is he gonna, he's barefoot and now he has all those things, and so now we go back to roommates, and here this is obviously Brian wrote this part. This is Act 2. Here we have Tony. Tony was helped us work on this a lot. He had a very small role as an extra in, I believe, the first episode of Roommates, and so we wanted to bring him back for, again, the bigger party, and but we wanted to kind of expand him, to something. That was an ad-lib, by the way, Tony did, and I thought was funny. Expand him to a talking role, a talkie, and here we have, oh god, two of Lena's friends, Unita and Brenda. And they're friends at the time. I think she's still friends with some of them. I'm not sure. And of course, there's my sister, and reprising her role from the first party. And then Brian's then girlfriend Laura is there as well. And this was just, I basically would fill out as much as I could of every shot. So I would just get everyone to just go there and to shoot this. I have to say, though, filming the party scene here, I had my diva moment. Basically, I had all these people over, and my mother, bless her heart, tried to hijack my filming. And was like, Chris, how about instead of filming, no one wants to film your movie. Let's just all drink and have fun. And I told her, no, we'll do that after. The quicker we shoot all this, the sooner we can move on and we could whatever. And then I just got so fed up because she kept insisting that I literally said, all right, guys, filming is canceled. And I just like walked away and went into my room and acted like such a little. I would never do that now, ever. That was, oh god, that was so. I look back and I'm like, that was really douchey of me. This, of course, is a pickup shot. I asked Brenda to come back, and Lena came back, and we did a pickup shot of this. This was something we didn't have time to film because of the quote-unquote drama that had happened. And thankfully, these young ladies were and Victor, of course, were kind enough to come back. And same thing with Brian and John. And we just, these were all pickups that we did. And that, of course, are not really Chuck E. Cheese coupons. Those are, we made those, and they look ridiculous, but whatever. And it's clearly daylight. I mean, I tried my best to make it look like it was just lights. It's not, like it was not daytime, but it's just we have really bright lights, and it just doesn't match anything else that's going on, but whatever, it kind of works, I guess. I mean, I think it works. What I love is Lena is holding sunglasses, and he says, why are you wearing shades? You look stupid. And if you notice, her acting is so awesome because she kind of like looks like, man, I like sunglasses at night, because she's holding them. And then, when her friend is like, I don't know, I think it's pretty cool, she's like, oh, that is cool. And then later on in the film, when we cut to her, she's wearing the glasses with dead Greg, and, And I have to give a lot of credit here to John and to Brian and Mike. They came up with excellent ways of moving the corpse. I mean, ways that in this humble director's opinion dwarfs those of Weekend at Bernie's. And of course Victor played Terry's date. The joke there is that Terry literally is picking another, man or someone who is a transsexual, or I'm not quite sure who Billy is, because Billy it's a very well, Billy can be a female name as well. It's whatever you want to think, but the joke was it's literally Victor wearing a wig. Now here, this was actually Brian and Poopa's idea. I was against it, where he's like, oh man, I could sure use a beer. And he goes, here you go. Boink, and we do a jump cut. I was actually against that idea, because I thought we're getting way too cartoony at this point. But the guys convinced me, and what I actually ended up doing was, and this was retrospective, it was not intended to be this way at all when we were filming this movie, but I have a film I made later on called Drunk Max, and I made a trilogy of it. And in the third film, which is a prequel that takes place about a year after the events chronologically of this film, we find out that Lewis is in fact a drunk god, and that is why he had the ability right there to make the thing appear. So that's the in-universe explanation. However, the actual filmmaking explanation is just that, Brian and Mike convinced me. They thought it'd be funny, and it does get a lot of laughs, or it did get a lot of laughs when we premiered the movie, and I thought, oh, well, that's great. At least people think it's funny, and, it's something that people like, and it's something that I like, and yay. So it turned out to be a good choice. The Mayhem and JJ B plot here was actually Mike's idea to incorporate them into the film because I don't think Brian as much, but Mike was very much against me having Mayhem and JJ in the first episode. His argument was they're literally there just to be like, hey, it's Mayhem and JJ, bye, and they leave, and they serve no purpose. Which, I agree with him. I mean, I'd stuck them in there just as a fun cameo. I needed Terry to talk to two partygoers, and I thought, why not be Mayhem and JJ, so that we could establish, hey, look, it's in the same universe as the stuff you've seen before, without catering too much. But Mike didn't like that, so when it came time to writing this film, he thought, why don't we have them in the movie, and they be something that, will, like, they're going to help them get rid of the body. Like they're a resource for Rob. And, I was totally for that. I just thought that's great. Like, let's go for it. It's really funny. This was shot the same day as the party. Me and Victor shot all this. I did not think Victor was going to jump on me. But I love this shot, by the way. I love me just kind of like completely off frame almost, and I jump on. I think Pupa did excellent camera work here. And then there, I did not expect Victor to jump on me, so when he did, that knocked the wind out of me almost. So this was not a pickup shot. It was shot very late in the game. You could tell because, again, Brian's hair is a little bit longer, or he had just gotten a haircut, and it's very well coiffed. And also, you could tell with Rob, his hair is absurdly long. And again, Pupa's idea was, oh, well, if I wear a hat, it'll just cover the hair growth. And while we were filming, we thought, yeah, no one's going to notice. But I'm like, it's almost as long as it was in the first 5 episodes of the show, before we shave your head. But whatever. I guess it works if you just understand this is a no-budget film, and we were doing the best we can. But here again, my sister and Brenda, playing these characters. Now, this I'm so proud of. I want to do more shots like this. I just love that it's just music in the background. It's quiet. There's not really a lot going on. It's just these two guys drinking. And it's all very quiet, and here we have a visual gag of him taking both shots and Victor being disappointed. And, of course, in the background, that's Tony and my lovely wife, Rebecca, who then was just my girlfriend. We weren't even engaged yet because it was so long ago. We started shooting this film in 2009. So, we weren't even we were almost engaged. We were a year off from being engaged, but not quite. And they did a great job with their, I just wanted to stick someone in the background so that we could have, people can realize, okay, the party is still happening, Look, there's someone in the background. Obviously, if I had it my way, I would have people behind Victor. I would have people around them, like just crowding them. But it's all I had. Also, I think this is Victor's, one of his strongest scenes in the movie. I just think he really pulls off this like sadness so well, and Mike is hilarious with the idea that he's so drunk you can't understand a word he's saying, but Bo understands him because he lives with him, and he's experienced all this, and it just works out. We did a couple of takes of that. Now originally here, this is again lost footage. That when I was doing the extended cut of the film, I tried to find it, but for the life of me, I could not find it. But here, we have this setup. Lewis puts the corpse of Greg, and Brian apparently channeled Jack Black there for a moment, but he puts the corpse away, and then I put Billy away, which actually here I believe that's actually John. In there. This is a pickup I think we did, and I just put John underneath, or I can't remember. So originally we right now cut to them outside and regrouping, and then someone saying, hey, wait a minute, there's no cops, and then they're like, oh no, Greg, oh no, Billy, and they run in to cut to, you know, what follows. But then I just did this instead 10 minutes later, and I cut to this, because, you know, and this is just great acting on Victor's part. Victor is reacting to nothing. There's nothing there. Nothing's there. These guys are all pretending. But I love the idea of Rob taking Victor's hat and Victor taking Rob's hat, and just, you know, puking and all this. So this I shot on film for whatever reason. I think I didn't have the digital camera, and I didn't think anyone would notice, but now looking back, it's like you could so tell. And I did that just to have an opening to this guy. Yeah. Are you the elder? I just wanted to have an intro to him that was very unique, and so every time we cut to him, you'd see that, and you're like, oh, okay, I know who we're about to see. Almost like a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. When we were filming this, I had no idea how we were going to depict the Elder, and I give a large part to Brian and Tony and Mike for coming up with how to depict him. I believe they were the ones that did it. Brian was like, how about I do the voice? And originally we were going to feed lines. Yeah, someone was going to just talk over Tony, and then I was going to ask Brian during post-production to come in, and there's the tripod, oh dear God, to come in and dub his voice. And Brian was the one that said, why don't I just sit off camera and I record the voice? So, like, actually, if I were to turn the camera just a little bit more to the left in this shot, you would see Brian crouch down with the microphone close to his mouth, and he was saying these lines loud enough that the microphone picked it up, and also loud enough so that Tony, who's playing the body of the Elder, knew what to do with his movements and things like that. And it really worked. I mean, you know, it was a better idea, and we were able to capture the voice in a, you know, outside. The recording came out really nicely, I think, a lot better than if we were inside the house or something. And this is pure Brian dialogue. It's so, like, Brian loves having, like, these inconsequential moments between characters sometimes. And I love it so much. I think it's hilarious, and such a great scene between these two guys. Yeah, and this was still fresh. That joke, believe it or not, still fresh. It just, you know, we were okay to do it. So here, originally in this scene, these two guys were actually going to be wheelbarrowing Greg. And when we tried doing the wheelbarrow, because I said, oh, I have a wheelbarrow, and they're like, great, we'll put him in it. So we took it out, and it rolled out finally. We put John in it, and there's actually footage of it, of Mike trying to push it. And what ended up happening was the wheel was flat. And so by the time Mike reached the front, it was making this loud noise. The wheel had come off. It wasn't filled with air, and it was just horrible. And so we reshot it and just said, well, how about, you know, you guys just drag him. And we did that. And I mean, honestly, I think the wheelbarrow would have been funnier, but you know what? We got that awesome drop where John dropped so well. So we wouldn't have gotten that drop if it wasn't for the wheelbarrow not working. So I have to give this. And here's Brian just acting the hell out of this scene. So well.
Maybe even jealous at first. God damn it.
Oh. And that is just, I love that shot so much. We cut to him and there's just bugs and flies, and it's like they have all this appreciation. It's just it's like a reflection. It's like they're looking in the mirror. Now look at that, a landline. Oh boy, does this date the movie. Nowadays he would just take out his phone, but no, it's a landline. And but Mayhem and JJ, as you can see, are more advance about these things. They have their thing. Now this whole thing of like JJ spare auto parts, or them doing that. That was something Brian invented that I thought was so funny. And right now I'm actually working. Well, we did it later, and in a bachelor party where he how can we. I forgot what he says, like, but JJ answers the phone and says something like another one of those jokey hellos, and it just worked out so well. It was something that Brian came up with here.
Yeah, I know, but I need a favor. No, this person needs a favor. I'd like to help.
This, God, I'm having such funny flashbacks here. This was so fun to do. It was a very simple scene we did. It was just Brian and me in Brian's room. We shot all the Mayhem and JJ sequences in like an hour, for all the scenes, and it was just so fun to come back and play these characters. I'm about to retire them, hopefully very soon with a series I want to do. I hope I get around to doing it, and it's reminders of like this that remind me of, why I want to even retire them in the first place in such a send-off way, as opposed to just letting them kind of like die off and stuff like that.
Fuck no, you fruitcake. I told you, I don't date guys. I go straight for the ladies. I'm straight like an eight.
Yeah, straight up my ass.
Get away from me, man.
No, wait. What will you do for that egg?
What will you do? I love this shot. When I first read the script, I'm like, this is the shot. This is going to be it. It's just so sinister, like, and I knew I had to like do this hug with Victor and all this stuff. This was great material. I had so much fun acting this, playing like an evil, manipulative Terry, and we got this super red apple. It was so fun to film, and unfortunately I haven't really gotten to play someone like this again since we've shot this, and I really hope that one day we get to do something like this again, because this is so funny. Always going through my head was the apple was key. Once he bit it, I had him. And so that was my idea, was just pull this man's strings. So here we get to the Elder again, of course. There's my bird, may he rest in peace, Sir Edward Merriweather. Such a great bird, and one of the few movies he's in. Definitely in rooMMates. Stone of Might. Brian wrote all this, and I had no idea what the hell I was going to do, or what the Stone of Might was going to be, or, what this... So this is all, like, the day we were filming Blood of a Fawn. I'm like, here's a wire bot. We just throw it off screen. Like, I love it. It's so simplistic, but I think it's really funny.
And now I shall hand you the remote of enchantment. What do I do with this, man? Can you replace the batteries?
And I tried to get as many sweeping shots as I could of the Elder.
Goddamn employee. Anyways, your friend
Oh God, Brian is so funny. This is so great. And of course, here we have John back. For this shot here, I wanted to have a lot of fun with this shot. So I told the guys, listen, just let's do a take with, the dialogue exactly as is. And then let's also do a take where you guys just have fun and you roll with it. And it got ridiculous. At one point, I came out as Paycheck Boy. And, it became very clear, even before I cut the movie together, that this scene was going to be... that scene would have been way too long to have, in the middle of this movie. And so what we have here is actually one of the ab-lib takes where right there Brian's like, you're John Ritter, and it's like, I'm a little boy from Sixth Sense, and I could see you, and you're dead. Like, that whole thing, that was an ab-lib Brian did. And this, of course, as well. Brian's like almost breaking character. Um, so I got like a middle ground one, you know, something like the lightest of the improvs, where the beginning and the ending is the scripted parts, and then you know, and here, Poopo, oh man, I should try anal. That's all an ablative, of course. I love Brian's acting here. He's like not quite sure what he did. And then just when Booble yells, and I think the blood effect here is really nicely. That I don't know how we got that. I think we just smeared some of the fake blood I had, and we put water in it, and we patted it across, and I think it looks fantastic.
I had to write this one myself my first time, but let me help you guys out. I mean, I think you guys should start slowing down on the big.
I love that so much. He turns into Corpse Greg with the glasses. I think we all agreed on that. That when he falls down. Now that line there, we want to go beat Bo with dildos. We did 2 takes, and first take was as scripted. And I think it was literally like, man, I would have killed him myself. And then again, Brian had written all these things, and I just had to produce them. You know, Brian writes, he replaces Michael J. Fox with the family or whatever. I had to create that the day before we shot. And it's just stuff I would never have came up with that Brian did, and just turned out for the best. But we did a second take, and they said, hey, we're going to do something. Trust us, you're going to want to stick this in the movie. And I'm like, all right. And it's like, let's go beat Bo with dildos. All right. And I'm like, I don't understand. Why is this funny? And it's because later on I found out that they had produced for me the film that Brian had made for me that is included in this YouTube release, the short film that's kind of set during the events of this movie that reveals Rob's origins, the lost episode. You can see me filming in that shot so bad. And I thought that was like so great. Okay, so here Brian reacts wildly to and here, you know, Rob is very maniacal eating Greg supposedly. And you know, here we have Lewis like, oh my god. So this was, and we cut to the intermission. When we cut back, you're gonna notice they're very calm in them interacting with each other. That was I remember, I don't know what show, there's a couple of shows I would watch where like this guy, there'd be a scene where like someone would walk in and he's like, and now, and he'd take out a knife and he'd be like, it's time to end it. And then, you know, they would cut to commercial, and then when it cut back to the commercial, he would just be like casually holding the knife. All right, now it's time to end it. And it was like such a cheap way that they would have 2 different takes of the same scene, and it was just meant as a means to keep the viewer as like, oh my god, we have to come back. So even though this is not a TV show or anything like that, it's a movie, I did incorporate that in there because I just thought, no, we have to do this. We have to have him react like this, and then when we cut back, it's going to be the same exact scene, except, you know, it's not a big deal or anything like that. So this was just me being self-serving to Tony, because at the time, I just loved the bastard so much. He was doing so much for us. He was just a good fucking guy, man. Very protective, good head on his shoulders. And so I wrote this scene because I just thought it'd be really funny to have, you know, Tony was a horrible singer, and he was very self-aware of it. And so we just thought, wouldn't it be funny if we have him singing and we have him doing all this shit, knowing, you know, okay, he's pretty bad at this. And and later on, I gave this to him as a gift. On Christmas, I gave him like some gift, and then, or no, I think it was his birthday. I bought him like some liquor, and then I said, "Here, man, and here's a copy of a DVD copy of just this." And I think we all popped it in and we watched it, and it's just, you know, it was funny. It was, to me, it was funny. It was just funny seeing Tony, you know, do all this. And this, of course, was That was Tony Zablin. You could see he's like trying to get our approval. 4 easy payments of $49.99. I would easily pay $200 for this. Brought to you by the maker of Realm of Prosperity. Totally. And here we have the last Hanging with Mike Pupo. Hanging with Mike Pupo, Mike and I and Brian had so much fun doing it that we actually thought of spinning it off, and actually doing a spin-off series where we would have, like Mike in it, and we would do this as like a weekly thing, And we came up with a couple ideas, and I even went so far as to get these and post them online and ask people like, hey, what do you think? Would you like to see this as something to do? And most people were like, yeah, it'd be awesome to see this. And I was like, okay, like we should do this. And then we just ended up not doing it because at that point I really wasn't hanging out with Mike as much anymore. And, we had all kind of gone our separate ways, and it just didn't seem to make sense to do Hanging with Mike Pupo if Mike Pupo wasn't involved in it. So these 4 episodes are the only ones that will ever be made. And then here, well, never say never, but I doubt it. And so here, Brian just reacts calmly, and Mike is just being silly. And that was, again, a response to, doing what we did earlier in the film. So this, we just thought that'd be such a cool transition. And I originally wasn't going to do it, and there's a vagina in the background that one of the guys did. Which, again, I thought, oh, this adds great ambiance. So here we are in Act 3. This was all written by Mike, with the exception of one scene, which I'll get to in a moment, that was written by me. And, of course, the ending. We had discussed this scene, and Mike wanted to open it with a funny joke just to kind of, like, I assume get people going here. Now, Brian, if you notice, he goes, we have to think of something, and then straightens himself out. That's because Brian kept doing stuff as Lewis that when we would cut back to Rob, we had already shot Rob's part, so when we cut back to Rob, the continuity of Lewis didn't make sense, the over-the-shoulder thing, and I kept telling Brian, listen, the continuity is not working, and so we did this. So I had to give Brian a lot of credit for this. I believe he did this in one take. He got it all in one take, or maybe it was 2 takes. I'm not sure. I had to find all of these photos, and it was extremely difficult to find. My my search engine was fucked from thereafter, because just the stuff I was looking here, I put question marks, is literally like the thing that they had mentioned. I looked it up and it didn't exist, or I think it was just something the guys had made up. Oh, and there when he says essence of soul swapping, that was just a joke. That was Mike saying like, oh look, he saw one of Chris's movies. But the idea is like that is a film within my film universe. So that's a film that these characters in all my movies are connected together in some fashion, and the essence of soul swapping is a movie within that universe, meaning that at any point, any of these characters could go to YouTube, look up the essence of soul swapping, and could easily see it. And my fictional version of myself created it, so that's kind of like the whole joke. And that picture of Brian was a real picture. They went to like a bar, and he, posed himself next to all these photos. This was my idea. The scene originally ended with, I knew it, and then I thought, well, they're in Terry's room. Wouldn't it be funny if Terry was sleeping and he's like, can you guys get out of here? So that was like the payoff, is just, he's like, get out of my room. So I think the date scene originally called for, why they would need 2 pizzas, I have no idea. But I think the date scene originally called for, it was like a steak, it was like a piece of meat or something, and we didn't have that. So I told, I think I told Mike, like, hey, why don't can we do pizza instead? And this, I think, was our idea. Wouldn't it be funny if Rob just kind of walks in, we don't see his head, and he just turns around and walks away.
Not so bad.
Just like, he stumbled across this date and was just like, oh, I gotta get out of here. The continuity in the pizza is horrible, by the way. I tried to take little nibbles, so that, it would hold up well and stuff, and it just, like, the pizza travels into my mouth so quickly. Victor hitting me on the side there, that was actually a practical joke those guys came up with. They thought, wouldn't it be funny if Victor and Pupo told Victor, Chris is such a wiener, because I was extremely skinny at the time that we filmed this, and he's like, why don't you just hit him on the shoulder really hard and see how he reacts? And actually, I remember being like, God damn, it's rough. And then when we cut the film, I said, damn, Victor, you hit me hard, dude. And then they started laughing, and they're like, ah ha 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 ha, that is because we fooled you. You stupid fool. And I'm like, oh, that is kind of funny. I was really pleased with the scene. I think it really this I think is hilarious. By the way, oh my god, I laughed so hard. Again, one of the last things we shot. Oh my god, when he said, I hope my alarm doesn't go off. God, I started laughing so hard. That was pure ab lib. I have a date tonight, and I need to get my watch out. When I read that part of the script, I just thought, God, why can't we see that episode? And actually, that was an idea we had at one point of doing a spin-off where we did that, but we go, into Lewis's ass. So it's like Journey of Imagination, that, great film or whatever, that movie where they go into the human body, except it'd be through Lewis's ass, and it'd be something else. You could see Pupo in the mirror filming. He has a very serious face as he films. This was extremely difficult for me to film. Basically, the way we shot both of these voiceover sequences was with our phones. Victor and I recorded because it was, the iPhone. We all had like iDevices of some sort. So with our phones, we recorded our dialogue and our big monologue or whatever. And then you could see my phone right there on my TV, on my pizza box. And then we put it to speaker and we played back, the video and or the audio, and then I would react to like what I was saying, knowing in advance what I was going to say. The thing is, this scene especially, the dick blowing and olive thing, I kept laughing so many times doing that because I thought it was so funny. So I did so many takes of me laughing because I thought it was just the funniest thing in the world of me saying that. It was just very funny. But this transformation of Terry was something that I came up with. I just thought it would be funny to see Terry both mentally and physically transform back into himself. And so we went with that, and then, here we have Victor finishing the story that he's telling. Again, another roommate story that we will never see. But we always left room because we were, like I said earlier, we were considering doing a spin-off show called rooMMates Chronicles that would be set in between the first episode of the show and the film, and it would just be random adventures throughout the timeline, and we'd do it as long as we could, as long as we had an idea. So they'd all be kind of like lost episode, like mid-log, or like, what is it, like intercals, I guess you could call them. Here again, Victor goes and does his thing, and he did it so well. Pupo just wrote some great dialogue here with the dragon bit. The dual personality thing was so funny and so interesting. It just added so much to Bo. And I remember reading this because we would have script meetings, and we would just get together and discuss whatever it is that we were doing at the time, what we were working on. And in the case of the film, we were working on the film, and so we would just give each other very general, because at that point we kind of knew the characters very well, so we would give very general ideas and then go off and start like writing and whatnot. And then when we got back together, we would read what we had written, and it was just like so cool how like what we would come up with and what we would discuss and all this stuff. And I remember just you know, this scene in particular I thought was so unique because we hadn't even thought of doing this. The dragons and lions and you ain't no dragon. You know, just I thought that was so funny. Ah, I am so parched. And there I am pausing during my story apparently, and then I go back and I start telling my story. So I don't know what Terry's discussing, but apparently that was a moment where it was a pause in the story because he's like, hmm. In actuality, I just was not acting. You know.
Not only not made with sugar, it was made with salt.
I love that. It's like a Mario laugh. So, you know, this is actually, that's a shot from Schwarzenegger versus Stallone. I just needed a background, an outside shot of the house, and not much had really changed, and I just said, screw it. So I went back to an old movie that Brian had directed in 2005, which was 4 years prior to this movie, and I said, screw it, that's going to be what we do.
Way, man. Greg could be the new Lewis, and I'll be the new Lewis. You're not cool enough to be the new.
Oh my god.
I know.
And, you know, them switching the shirts. I don't know if this was in the script or not. I think it was, or at least the glasses were. I don't remember. But, again, a Poopo joke that I thought was great. And here, I mean, you could argue, oh, maybe they're friends. Man, Poopo is really copying a feel on Brian right now. But I kind of, I don't know, I get a slight gay vibe from them, like a love vibe. Obviously it'd be inappropriate because if you have heard or listened to rooMmates' origins, they're actually related, the two of them. So I guess it's however you want to interpret. If you don't consider that canon, then, you know, because it's kind of like a supplementary thing that we had done. But, you know, it is supposed to be canon, at the very least. So it's kind of weird they're all related. So this was, that was Poopo's part. I think this goes on a bit too long personally, but I think it's hilarious. Then here we cut here, and this is a pickup shot. I don't know why I didn't film. Oh, it's because I didn't have John in this scene, but I had him in the previous one. Okay, so this scene here of Mayhem and JJ, this was written by me. Mike just didn't know, his words, not mine. He said, I just don't know these characters, and I think it would make more sense if you guys wrote them. And he handed, you know, he said, whoever wants to write it. And Brian was like, you know what, I wrote a Mayhem scene already, Mayhem and JJ scene, I'm good. And then I said, well, fuck it, let me take a crack. So this scene here was written by me. The Rob parts were written by Poopo, but when we cut here to Mayhem and JJ, this was all me, and you know, it was just fun, you know. It just was very easy to jump in and write because Brian had written such a great scene that it was easy to jump in and just come up with, you know, something that made sense within the confinements of this movie. Of like how these guys will react, because obviously these guys are very animated, or they change depending on what movie they're in. You know, they kind of they're the same core personality, but they act a little bit differently and reference different things depending on who they're talking to, I think. So, you know, and then this we came up with on the spot of Terry will be here in exactly 5 minutes. Exactly 5 minutes later, and then Terry's there. We just thought that'd be so funny, and for some reason it just reminds me of Doc Brown. I don't know why, of like, you know, time and measurements and all this stuff. And so here, of course, we conclude, you know, the Bo and Terry saga, or saga, if you would. That's actually a picture of Rebecca and I. From Universal Studios. It's actually a really cute, or Disney, I think it's from Planet Hollywood. It's actually a really cute photo that we have hung in our house right now. But, you know, it's supposed to be me blowing a professor, apparently, according to this movie. So yeah, here we wrap it up. Yeah.
Kindly fuck off.
So great.
You didn't even for once stop and think maybe he's fucking serious about this shit. You know what? Fuck you.
I really think it's very interesting that Bo was willing to take that chance, you know, of like being in a relationship, and it's really well done on Pupo's part to have written that. It's the only believable part of this relationship, I feel. Um, and of course, I'm every woman. Just I guess that's the ringtone he added.
Terry Wentworth Mills, psychology.
Now this is a very interesting because here we show that Terry was under hypnotic suggestion that he's actually Australian and that apparently he's a badass. And this was entirely done as a last minute idea. This was not in the original story at all. We had when we were writing the film, we had decided wouldn't it be great if Terry turned out not to be who we thought he was, and that he's doing this and stuff, and it turned out for the best, I feel. So here we have the fake out ending, directed by Chris Cortez, written by all these fellers, and we have, the cast, of course, of who is in the film, and then we hear a gunshot. Now here, this is a pickup shot. You can see John John's beard is a lot shorter, Mike's hair is shorter. This was all Brian. We had conceived this idea. We thought, let's do an epic shootout, and Brian was the one who came up with the idea of, he was the one that shot this, and we each kind of came up with our own idea of what should these guys dress up as. I wore a spy's outfit. Brian wore this awesome outfit. I mean, he looks like a I don't know, like a 1930s plane, like a person that would ride a plane in the 1930s. I don't know. Victor's like a bandit, and Mike looks like the closest to a Sergio Leone kind of thing. But this is brilliant. It's all color corrected. It looks amazing. Brian shot this so wonderfully. I mean, it's such a beautiful looking sequence. It's without question the best, scenes of the movie. Something that, I really commend him on, and we all look so different, and this, the third arm, that's Mike's arm, obviously, and it just came out so great. And it was entirely all Brian. I can't, as a director, I mean, what I tried to do was just facilitate this scene, much like the intro for Pupo. That was something Mike was like, okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And so I just made sure the beginning and what came afterwards made sense. And we cut that together. Brian came in and cut this by himself. I cut all the way to the fake out ending. And then, we heard the gunshot, and then Brian from there out, cut the rest of the sequence. And so again, my job was just, I hope I facilitated everything he needed to get to that point. And I hope I did that well. As an actor here, it was just listening to Brian and doing what, the best I could do. I think Brian's complaint is I died too quick, but I didn't know. See, here I kind of cough, and he said, you took too long dying. And I don't know, I guess that's what, I didn't know he wanted me to do a quick death. I thought, how would Terry die? And in my head, I just thought it'd be overly dramatic. What I love is later on, we expand upon this scene a little bit in rooMMates' origin, so we get to kind of see a little bit more. And here we have Nolo. That's for stealing my fucking role. And, Nolo the badass. Nolo came in, he had been in the series the first 6 episodes, and came in and steals, around. And I love that smile he gives. It's so sinister. And just steals their car, and steals his hat, and steals our hearts at the same time. And that's it. Drives off Sergio Leone style. And here we have still not dead. So I guess it's, I guess he had to die, cuz so here 30 years later, here we have the epilogue. And I was going to put this after the credits, but I said, fuck it, I'm going to put it before. I shot this, and this was a last-minute idea. I just thought it'd bring finality to the roommates, these roommates, in a way that would work out.
Ghosts? We don't believe in ghosts. Is that so?
And here it's very excellently revealed that they're all dead. They're ghosts, and they're haunting the house. And it says they're 30 years later. I always thought it'd be really fun, if in 22 more years we do another roommates movie, and it's like the next generation, and it has nothing to do with these guys. But who knows? Maybe we'll end up doing that. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for listening to this audio commentary. I'm so glad I finally got to record one. This has been a long time in the making, or rather a long time of wanting to make this. Roommates, the movie experience, was the first and last big film that I made thus far, and I really felt like after I made this movie I could stop saying I am a student filmmaker. I mean, we're always students when we film make, but I felt like this was my big film that I made with my friends that was kind of a culmination of everything we'd done before. Anyway, guys, thank you so much again, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the film stuff. Take care.